In today's video, we're going to take a look at picking amazing dividend stocks. Well, I'll give you some insight. We'll see what happens. Anyway, Amelia here asks, I want to buy a few dividend stocks. Any good recommendations? Okay, so tough to recommend stocks because when you really look at it, your hold time might be 2 weeks, it might be 2 years, it might be 20 years. Nobody really knows. So when we get into these types of things, you got to watch out that you're more specific in your questioning. However, there are, when you start choosing dividend stocks, there's a few things to kind of think about. So I'm going to give you a rundown when we're looking at a dividend stock, because here's the thing. Stocks that pay a dividend usually are much more, call it stable, or they don't appreciate as much. So a stock that's appreciating quite heavily is not going to pay a big dividend. So for example, a stock that's just going up to the moon like this, usually there's less dividend. Stocks that are a little more stable and then kind of trending, they'll pay a dividend. Stocks that are trending, let's say, down in a big way, they'll pay a much bigger dividend. So it's important you recognize that there is a bit of a thing that you have to watch, that when you're looking at these things, that the more dividend that they pay, so it's kind of like a balance effect. If the dividend payout is, let's just say, huge, dividend payout is big, you have to kind of watch out, because usually it means the stock is kind of heading down. It's usually kind of a cause and effect relationship. Or the company is, it's stable. You could say it's less stable, but it's stable, but there's not as much growth or appreciation. So there is a little bit of a sweet spot, kind of similar to like a tennis racket having a sweet spot, where the stock could appreciate with time or slowly appreciate and still pay you a dividend. So I'll give you a couple of ideas and examples. One way to find these things is if you're using the ThinkorSwim, go into the scanner. We could go Stock Hacker, and we'll do public weeklies. So that way they trade also weeklies. And then we add a fundamental analysis to it. So it'll be under add a filter, fundamental, and then I went in, put in dividend yield, and that is the current yield. Now I find this yield is not always perfect, so just keep that in mind. And then we did a scan, So we have a few stocks here, and we can sort by dividend yield. If you don't have it, hit the gear icon next to it, customize, and then you can show the dividend yield by looking up the column. So there's dividend per share as well. We could kind of add that in, and now you can kind of maybe see it. Let's see. There it is. It's not always perfect, I will say. Sometimes you got to look it up. So there's dividend. There you go. So now we've got a little bit dividend per share. So DKS, for example, let's take a look if it's perfect or not. But we got a 2.02, which means 2.02% on your money per year. That's what it's saying. The stock's currently 212. So dividend on DKS, and dividend on DKS. And you can see it's, annual dividend is 2.07. So that is what we've got, 2.02 on this sheet. So roughly around there. And quarterly dividend is 1.10. So in here it says 66 for some reason. I'm not sure if that's exactly accurate, but dividend is 2.07. You can also take a look at the history here. That gives it a little more precision. So in this case, it says 2.04 for the dividend yield and 1.10 or 1. So you can see that's what the dividend is roughly. So here's the thing. Some of these stocks will pay a huge dividends. I will give you one. Most of the time they're kind of quarterly. There are some monthly. Let me look up Pfizer, for example. And then what we'll do is we'll open up this right here. That'll give us a 5.61 yield. So I think of things like, between a 2%, 1%, it's kind of like a healthy dividend, to about maybe 7 or 8. So when you look at MO, like cigarette companies, not that I care to endorse them, but it's about 8%. Same with like Philip Morris, 4%. BBY, if you take a look, 4.24%. Let's see. Another one that we've got is KMI, 5.35%. UPS, 4.49. Yes, these are all on top of my head. That's because I have a couple of different accounts and funds that we focus a lot on dividend stocks. Another one here that we've got is, let's see, BMY, okay, 5.63. However, what I will show you is that some of these, when we look at stuff like BMY and we look at things for, let's say on a daily chart, this stock's been going down, right? When you look at Pfizer, also, it's been going down. However, recently now it's starting to trend a bit higher. UPS also similar, been going down, but recently we've had a little spike. So be careful with some dividend stocks. A few other big ones like Verizon. Here you've got 6.39. AT&T is another one, 5. You've got Ford, 4.29. So those are some. I'll just pull up a couple other ones, just kind of Disney. You can see it's not going to give you a lot. It's like 1%. Here's PepsiCo, 3.2. So there's a bunch of others on there. Microsoft here, you can see, because it appreciates quite well, it's paying you less than 1% on the dividend yield, because you're making more up on the share amounts. So those are kind of the general list that I would look at. If you want to go through the scan and you can search for the dividend yield, what you can also do, let me just, I can flip through these pretty quickly because I've done a bunch of different things with dividends. So AT&T, Verizon are pretty big. When you're looking at dividends, probably stick to some core names that you'll want to look at. BBY we talked about, USB. There's also a bunch of banks. Here's UPS that I mentioned, and BMY. I'd probably stay away with stuff like Suncor. Let me see. SU. I haven't looked at it really, to be honest. Volume, okay. And then if we look at chart SU, and we'll go to a daily. Actually, it's been holding out okay. So certain things, it's just because when we do dividend stocks, we're usually holding them for multiple months or years in the different funds that I kind of work on. So when we're doing stuff like this, I don't always recognize brand new names or names like really that we haven't followed as much. PNC is a bank. Yeah, it's going to pay a dividend. CVX also very nice. Let's see what CVX is. I think it's like 4.00. Then you've got Morgan Stanley, which is a bank, 3.62. Let me look at BAC, 2.24. It's a little bit. JP Morgan, 2.19. So those are a few ideas, and just recognize that usually if they're paying less dividends, you'll probably get some stock appreciation. So that's kind of, when you're looking at some of these dividend stocks, these are some of the ones to look at. And it all really comes down to balancing out how much appreciation you want relative to the dividend you pay. Okay, so, CVS, also big dividend player, but the stock's been going down. I think WAG as well. What is it? Walgreens? WBA, sorry. 9% dividend. So here, look, I'll show you this one. 9.08 dividend of Walgreens. Here's the problem with a stock like this. WBA, look at this thing. It's just been going down, okay? Now, you could sell a bunch of calls against it, hedge it off, and that kind of thing. But even then, it's tricky to work with this one on a dividend play, because yes, they'll give you a big dividend, but that stock's tanking, so they got to keep you somehow in there. And then these, when we're looking at them, the frequency is all quarterly. There is some other ones, like here's DX, not that I recommend it, but I'm just saying this is a 12% dividend, and it's a monthly dividend. Okay, 12% on the yield for the year. And then there's, let's say, CRF, very similar, 16% yield. And it's a monthly dividend. So if you're kind of looking for something like that, those are some cheaper ones, but there's no options to hedge those things off. So not always recommended, because look, the volume's very thin and lightly traded. I'm just saying, I know those because I've seen them around, but I wouldn't always recommend stuff like that. So be careful if you're doing that kind of stuff. Anyway, hope that helps, gives you a little insight on some of the dividend plays and how to find them, research them, and mentioning a whole bunch of stocks there. But really it comes down to how are you spreading your money, the price of the stocks, what kind of dividends you're looking for, and what you currently have. So, but maybe that'll give you a few different ideas. If you're kind of more interested in those kinds of things, you could check out some of the other tools, tidbits, and things I have on my website. There's a lot of worksheets, PDFs, printables, and that kind of stuff that you can look at. Just check out the website. And I also do one-on-one coaching for a lot of people that are looking to do things related to option trading, covered calls, and make income in that way. So thanks for joining me. I will see you next time. Take care.